tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to the
Good evening,
show.
Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Good evening, ma'am. Can't hear you. Hello.
Testing 1, 2, 3. You got me now? Sound back, sound back. I got audio now. Everyone hearing me now? Give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me now. Yep. Sound. Just give me a thumbs up if you all are hearing me. I'm getting all green lights here. Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much. I had to reboot it yesterday. You saw we were having, yes. Thank you. I had to reboot everything because we had glitches yesterday. It was buffering, but thank you for that heads up. Thank you, Venice. Thank you, everybody, for letting me know. And for my caller, thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I think whatever I did automatically cut you off, but thank you for letting me know that. Love you lots. But good evening, one and all. Yes, welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. And yes, we're voices of the islands, conversations for the world, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I'm your host, Sabrina, and it's good to be back with you this evening right here in living color from the beautiful Cayman Islands. I ventured out on the road today, and to be honest with you, I felt like Dora the Explorer for a moment. For those who interacted with me and tried to come to my rescue, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it all ended well, I must say. I am definitely excited, and my flyer speaks for itself. Because yes, tonight on Sabrina Speaks, in this episode, Cayman steps into the future. But are we ready for it? And what I'm talking about is definitely, and we've covered it here already, but I'm going to go a little bit more in detail because I'm speaking from a perspective now where, you know, I experienced it myself and I'm waiting for the next chapter. So I'm talking about the new My EID digital identity card. Yep. Yes, it's here and everyone's really talking, but I come from an unbiased perspective. I made the decision myself because some I'm hearing saying it's progress, some say it's pressure, and some just want to know and more, pretty much in plain English, what this thing actually does. But it's not as scary as it sounds, to be honest. And I know there's a lot of information out there, but my aim is to break it down as from what I understood, what information was shared with me, and talk a little bit about the whole QR code, the NFC chip, the machine readable, and they gave me an apparatus as well that if I'm using it, I can either plug it in my phone. It's like a reader, a chip reader, and it was amazing what I was able to do there. But I'll tell you all about that. But really and truly, bringing it to the home front with you in regards to this. And I want to walk you down the whole process from booking online and registering my interest. And if you ever wondered whether this digital leap is a step forward or whether or not you stepping too fast, you may not want to miss it because I can share it from both perspectives from a personal. This is not by any means trying to be a sales pitch for anyone. I'm just sharing my story with you, my interaction. And of course, we're all about civic education. And by all means, you're all welcome to call in. But I'm going to share my experience with you and share with you and impart what knowledge I have based on the information that I got and me stepping into the future as well with our own jurisdiction. But definitely, the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. And our number is to join in the conversation this evening, or if you want to send us a WhatsApp, that's 345-936-8255. That's 345-936-8255. Before going into all that I got in store for you today, and some, let's take a look at the weather forecast for tonight and into tomorrow. The synopsis calls for moderate winds with slight to moderate seas are expected across the Cayman area as the ridge of high pressure lingers over the Northwest Caribbean. Some isolated showers are possible due to low-level moisture and upper-level trough over the Cayman area. Radar imagery shows isolated showers in and around the Cayman area moving southwest. The forecast for tonight calls for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the mid-70s. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. The forecast for tomorrow calls for partly cloudy skies with 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise to the near mid to upper 80s with a heat index of 92. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. There's going to be a high tide at 9:13 this evening. Tomorrow, a high tide at 5:53 and a low tide at 12:12 a.m. Sun will set this evening at 6:32 and sun will rise tomorrow morning at 6:37. The outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Thursday. So there you go. You can plan your week. It's still hot outside. Ooh, I don't know if it's because I don't really go out that often, but it's hot. Thank God the AC works. The AC works in the car. Yeah. But it was hot and humid. But I'm so happy to be in the tropics. Nevertheless, I'm given thanks for being able to call Cayman Islands my home in comparison to so much other places. I am so happy to call the Cayman Islands my home. Let's take a look at the news that made the Sabrina Speaks show for this evening. And we start with local news making our headlines today. Premier Andre updated Parliament on the Cayman Islands' participation in the 50th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, underscoring the value of in-person diplomacy and strengthening regional ties. Now, the summit held from the 24th to the 27th of February in St. Kitts and Nevis brought together all 15 member states and 6 associated members with discussions centered on regional security, economic opportunity, and infrastructure resilience, including engagement with the United States Secretary of State, Honorable Marco Rubio. Premier Ebanks noted that being physically present allowed Cayman to hear discourse firsthand and participate directly in conversations on security, illicit trafficking, and shifting geopolitical dynamic issues that directly impact our borders and national responsibility. In other local news, we also have a developing update from the Ministry of Health this evening. Following concerns raised publicly, a report then reported by CMR officials confirmed that there is no current evidence of an HIV cluster in Cayman Brac. Public Health conducted an immediate review of recent data and says there's no indication of any increase in cases on the island. Monitoring continues, and the ministry is urging the community to rely on verified information and to continue regular testing as part of routine health care. Also, Finance Minister Ralston Anglin is warning of growing public finance crisis as costs for Sinico's home health care program continue to surge. He told Parliament the allowance is increasingly being used for assisted living rather than medical care, because many seniors have nowhere to go after hospital discharge. Anglin says spending has climbed to just over $11 million this year, and adjusted the allowance to match the new minimum wage could add up to $9 million annually. He cautioned the bill could reach $20 million this year and nearly $29 million by 2028, calling for means testing, stronger oversight, and greater investment in rehab and assisted living facility. He also urged private sector partners to help fill the gap. In other local news, 13 Caymanians have officially begun the Customs and Border Control recruit training program, marking the start of their journey in service to our islands. Over the coming months, recruits will train in border security, customs enforcement, immigration procedures, law enforcement fundamentals, ethics, and customer service, preparing them to safeguard our borders and support national security. Minister Honorable Nicholas DaCosta joined senior CBC leadership to welcome the new cohort, extending best wishes as they embark on this important path of service to the Cayman Islands. And in more local news, members of the Cayman Islands Fire Service Extended Leadership Program team joined senior leaders from across the civil service at the 2026 CIG Senior Leadership Conference at the Kempton Seafire, under the theme, Influence in Action, Leadership that Delivers. The conference focused on how international leadership strengthens accountability, drives alignment, and delivers meaningful results for the Cayman Islands. A highlight was the panel on the accountability advantage, along with an inspiring session from keynote speaker Scott Robley on using international influence to create lasting behavioral change. For the Cayman Islands Fire Service, it was a valuable opportunity to learn, connect, and deepen their commitment to public service. Just take a quick look at the Caribbean Roundup this evening. Caribbean footballers are once again facing major travel hurdles to the United States. Jamaican Premier League club Mount Pleasant has been forced to leave 10 players behind after they were denied U.S. entry visas for their CONCACAF Championship Cup match against the LA Galaxy. The affected group includes several Haitian nationals who officials say are being hit hard by stricter U.S. entry policies. With a depleted squad, Mount Pleasant has had to call up academy players just to field a team. CONCACAF and club officials say the match will proceed as scheduled, even as they work urgently to find a long-term solution. Putting our attentions to Bermuda, Premier David Burt says the world needs Bermuda, highlighting the island's stability among global conflict and economic uncertainty as he opened a Bermuda Risk Summit. And in Barbados and Trinidad are exploring a new tourism and culture MOU, aiming to deepen regional cooperation and improve airlift and visitor flows. And over in Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad has been placed under a state of emergency following credible intelligence linking gangs and former detainees to a surge in violent crime. Top 2 stories making international news today. And we're following these breaking developments in the Iran conflict. The Pentagon confirms that about 140 U.S. service members have been wounded since the Iran war began, with intensified strikes continuing. Now, the injuries have occurred over the past several days of intensifying fighting, with officials noting that the true casualty count is significantly higher than earlier public disclosures. Pentagon's updates continue to evolve, and we'll bring you the latest as more information becomes available. Also, Uber has launched a new nationwide feature allowing women riders and women drivers in the United States to match exclusively with each other, an expansion of its women preference program, which the company said is designed to improve comfort and safety on the platform. The rollout follows a successful pilot programs, but comes as Uber faces a class action lawsuit in California, with some drivers urging the policy discriminates against men. Uber says the feature responds directly to feedback from women who want more control over how they ride and earn. And finally, we're following new data showing that Canadian travel to the United States has now fallen for the 13th straight month, according to industry reports. Analysis say Canadians are increasingly choosing destinations outside the United States, with decline driven by shifting travel preferences, cost concerns, and ongoing regional tensions. Tourism experts note that this sustained drop is beginning to impact United States destinations that traditionally rely heavily on Canadian visitors. We will continue to monitor the trends as updated figures are released. And as we end tonight's segment of our news, let us join in celebrating young excellence. Red Bay Primary School is proudly singing Champion, Champion. Everybody know, Red Bay's a champion, of course. Red Bay Primary School delivered an outstanding performance at the 2026 National School Chess Championship, taking first place in both A team and female team divisions, and second place in their B team. With a record-breaking 61 school teams and 250 players competing, the students not only rose to the challenge, they successfully defended their national title. Huge congratulations to Team Red Bay Primary School for their focus, strategy, and sportsmanship. A true champion's finish to that finish our news segment for today. But it's good to be here with you. Welcome, welcome, one and all. Happy birthday to all of you who are celebrating birthdays today, anniversaries, and our sincere condolences go out to those families who are mourning the loss of a loved one. And Ms. Celeste Broderick, I see where there was breaking news, but I didn't get the opportunity. But the full story is right here on our CMR TV platform. And CMR has reported her loss. Our sincere condolences go out to all of those families. But for all that she's done in the pageantry world, our sincere condolences. Yes. But good evening, Marshall. Let's see who's in the house. It's good to see you here this evening. Thank you for that. We've gotten it sorted out. Yes. Connie Bonnie's in the house. And hi, Miss Joy. Hi, Venice. Yes, it's good to see you all, Damian Henry, as usual. Thank you so much, all of you. Like I said, 345 is the number to call if you want to join in the conversation this evening. And should there be something else that's really pressing, of course, call in 345-936-8255. Some of you have been missing in action. I want you to call in today. And I'm hoping everything is going out well. Well wishes to Aliano. I'm hoping that he's continuing to get well. And to my friend Jimbo as well. I'm hoping you're continuing your road to recovery and all is going well with you. Michelle, I'm still, it's an update. It almost feels like roll call. Michelle is still holding on. She's still overseas with her husband. They're in Tampa receiving treatment. So again, because we're all one family here on the Sabrina Speaks platform, I got to keep you up to date. Donnie's in the house. I hope you're doing well. And Lavana, I hope you are as well. Yes. But tonight, for those of you just joining us, we're stepping into the digital future. And guess what? I stepped into it today as well. Yep, I'm talking. I got my, my EID today. Yeah, there we go. I got it today. Yep. It was a real good experience, I must say. And first of all, let me take this opportunity to publicly congratulate Mr. Ian Tibbetts for he and his team down there for really just trying to get this out, to get it out there. And oops, they hung up. Mr. Ian Tibbetts and his crew out there, congratulations to you and your team, but kudos go out to Mr. Tyler Christian. Oh my goodness, what a professional young man. Such a calm, professional young man who assisted me today. He was calm because, you know, some of us are just digitally challenged. It is what it is. But let me tell you something. The young man took his time. He was very professional. He let me go through everything. We took the picture and all. And please note that for those of you who are planning or thinking about it, your ears need to be visible. With all of this, you know what did I got going on here? Oh, that was drama. But anyhow, I digressed. But I must say, going back to Tyler and all the persons that I've interacted with, I must say up to getting the document, the card, which for the record, I had an opportunity whether or not you displace, from what I understood, this card is good for 5 years and it's going to be renewed at 5 years. It has a chip so you can do the tap with it as well. And you have an option as to whether or not you displace on this card's feature, like a driver's license, your physical address, that's an option or not. Or you can put your mailing address. And in 5 years, pretty much you could change addresses. So I made the decision to opt out, but it is a choice. It's your personal preference. And I must say that he was able to do my signature and all that on a little pad. And I was able to put in some security information as well. Bottom line is, I just want to say thank you to everyone. From the time I registered my interest to receiving a confirmation that my interest was registered, I got the email and waited for them to send back a confirmation email for me to book my appointment to pick up my card. That was the only little snag, save for, I couldn't remember which particular location, but hold on, we can hold on to that. Anyhow, the link that they sent for me to book the appointment was broken. And I had to call their help desk, which I guess they're being flooded with a number of calls, and it's understanding. But when I did get through, I did not get the young lady's name, but she too was very, very responsive, very calm, very understanding. And at the end of the day, I guess she realized something was going on anyhow behind the scenes. So she ended up securing my appointment manually. However, from what I understood today, that little glitch has now been sorted out and it should be smooth sailing for others. But personally, when they sent me back my confirmation to say, okay, yes, it's an in-person meeting. Of course you got to go because you need to sign and you need to take your picture. Once I got that done, it was okay. I'm horrible with directions, really. So aside from that, it gave me an opportunity to see some people. Some people recognized me, and it was good to interact, even though I was kind of getting a little flustered because it was hot. Anyhow, the idea is that you go online and you make all of your necessary, put in your information, and they will respond back to you and give you further instructions from there, like the location to where to go and all that sort of stuff. So I must say congratulations to Mr. Tibbetts, Ian Tibbetts and his team. But kudos, I got to say kudos to Tyler. And if I'd gotten the lady's name that had spoken to me on the phone that really helped me out to actually book the appointment, I really, really want to. I'll put it in the link afterwards so we can go get sorted out. But yep, I am ready. And the good thing is my concern was, and I asked the question to Tyler, I said, you know, like CNB, when you get your debit card, they give you those little cases that because it's a chip and you can tap and go and that sort of stuff. I says, but if I'm going to use this as national ID, can I just, you know, like how you walk around with your driver's license, we got either a phone or something or those card holders, can I just stick it in there? And he says, yes, ma'am, you can do that. I says, well, am I not protecting this chip because you have people walking around that could possibly read your card? He says, the good thing is they can read it, but they ain't going to get access to anything. Nothing can be read off of your card. And like I said, they gave me also a card reader. And I had two options to choose from. One that's like a mobile card reader and one with other functions as well. I tell you, this is cool. One with other functions that if I'm sitting at my laptop, it's also able to put it into my phone or a desktop. And it tells you if you're going to be idling for a while, you can adjust to switch. I chose that one, which is a little bigger to use because it gave me more flexibility. So he did say that in time, they may actually get the covers for these if you're so inclined, but that was my concern. But I must say the information that was shared, the entire process was smooth after I was directed where I had to go. And that information now will be given to you. It's not top secret, but there's some reason behind it. And I'm hoping that I can have maybe them on the show in short order with the minister and we can just go through this. I know that they have been on platforms speaking about this, letting people know what the aim is, but it's a different perspective when I've opted in. I didn't hide that. And it's everybody's choice. Like I said, it's your choice if you don't want to do it. But I opt to do it. And I'm just sharing my experience with you. But there was no lines, and this is why it's good that I like the fact that the appointment is yours. And the whole QR thing is set up for you. There was no confusion at all. Once I got in there, they were very clear. They were concise. It was an easy process with the exception of giving them my ID, my national ID, which was my passport that they scanned. That was all that was asked of me. And for the record, my nationality is GBR. It isn't ... Yeah, it isn't ... I am GBR. So that is one and same as Caymanian because we are a British overseas jurisdiction. So I must say, kudos, congratulations to them. There were no surprise or anything. My only concern that I had at that time, which is probably a question based on Tyler's response, I says, darling, how do you handle seniors who are really not digitally, inclined, or they're not into all this tech stuff? And he chuckled. He says, that comes up. What I did ask, I said, is there a possibility that if these seniors want to just come and get this card, but not necessarily with all the bells and whistles, and you do this and you do that, but the capabilities are still there, are you able to accommodate these people? Because it was a little bit much. If I hadn't taken time to really elevate myself since I've been having some time on my hand, getting into the digital space, doing a lot of online courses, investing in myself for where we're going digitally, not only for this space, but just in life, knowing how to use certain AI tools and all that sort of stuff, I would have probably said, darling, you can keep that card. I go in. This is not the Sabrina of 2021. And I was sharing it with another friend. I was so happy after I got through. I said, look here, if this was the Sabrina of 2021, I'd have probably gotten up and left. Only because it was a lot of information, but because it was digitally. They were using some acronyms that I wasn't too OTP. That is a security code that comes through similar for your online banking. And I says, you could probably, it could be a little intimidating for people who are really not that computer literate or was hesitant anyhow. But it was good to know that the option, and I stand to be corrected, but what I understood, the option is there should seniors want to go and just get this ID and they take their time and actually just have the education about it themselves. There is a flyer that they send you with step by step. And again, a lot of our seniors are actually on WhatsApp and doing stuff like that. So if there's links that they can go to and their children or grandchildren can actually help them and do read up on it. But there is a paper flyer that they gave me as well to help me because I told Tyler, I says, yeah, I hear what you're saying. She's activated and everything, but I can still sit on my couch after the show and I'm going to go through this myself. But to be honest with you, I want to break it down because there are there's a lot of misinformation out there. And like I said, I respect people's opinions. You're entitled to your opinion, but I feel it's fair for me to just tell you about the features of the card because what is it used for? What it does, it's a machine readable. It's compatible. It has an NFC chip in it, and there is secure digital identity. That's pretty much what it is. And what it was rolled out for, based on what was placed in the public's domain, it is to assist and ease of doing business for government services, also for employment verification, immigration checks as well, and also private sector identification confirmation as well. Now, of course, this is a new rollout here for us in the Cayman Islands, so they will be adding on different things to it as we go along. What it's not, though, and I needed to make sure that people understand that, is that it is not a phone app, at least not yet. It's not a phone app yet, from what I'm gathering. Even though, Tyler did say there was something that they're going to release. Anyhow, stick a pin on that one. I think there is a phone app that they have developed since then. But the fact also remains that it is not mandatory at this stage. This is something, and I say at this stage because people may change their mind. The government is not mandating anybody to get it. This is the first rollout phase, and it's anybody who works with any government departments, councils, that sort of stuff, and Caymanians can actually opt in for it. It's not mandatory. And it's not a full data dump when scanned, meaning all the stuff is there when it's scanned, when you scan it, that everything that's on it, it's going to come. No, behind the scenes, you actually control what is being seen. However, on the back end of it, it does have your emergency contact. You have a choice to put name of your emergency contact, telephone number, and an email address for an emergency contact as well. And you do that. You have that option of doing that once you actually go there to get it set up. Now, we've noticed from a global context that the EU has rolled theirs out at pretty much all of their stations right now. And I was telling you guys that from the end of last year. We saw where Jamaica and Barbados have similar systems as well, even though there are still some pushbacks. But Cayman's, from what we're told, what is in the public's domain, is tailored to our legal cultural landscape. So it isn't a cookie cutter thing. And again, you can weigh in on your opinion for this, and because it is just not isolated. I'm not just doing this to push any narrative for the government. Again, let me declare, I'm just sharing my experience from day one, from start to finish. And this is why I am proud to say I stepped into the future today. To each his own with what they want to do. But, you know, based on my experience today, this is something that is already working in real time, because we know that immigration, customs, I think police records or licensing is already online, and it's ease of getting through access there. So I know that there's a big elephant in the room when it comes to what government says, where it pertains to data protection that is central. Citizens can query their own records, and the QR and the NFC, the chip limits is shareability. But what global examples we see where, again, the US faced concerns. Jamaica themselves had early glitches as well. And that is why here in the Cayman Islands, we're doing it in a phased rollout to avoid pitfalls. So yes, in the early sections, with what nuances that I may have experienced, thank God I'm understanding, I was able to engage with persons there to let them know of my experience. I had that privilege. And I could say that they're receptive, you know? So it's transparency, there is oversight, data access, system resilience. All of that is what the government has rolled out. And I'm hoping that, you know, as time goes by, that more information will come in bite-sized pieces. But I was one who was intimidated of anything digital. And that was more, not that I was scared of being tracked, because we all are. It was more me not understanding it at pace. And you don't want to go in and click the wrong thing and that sort of stuff. But there are some security features and guardrails and stuff that you shouldn't really be intimidated about in getting that. So at the end of the day, when you look at it from the economic and daily life impact your day to day, you know, it can give you faster government services is what is being proposed for immigration processes. If you are a business owner and you're actually engaging in businesses with government, I think you would find that more than likely, eventually, it may be a thing that it makes life easier. Let's see. But you know what? I stepped into the future today and I feel good about it. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Sabrina.
Good evening.
Wait, are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. You're live.
And you know, the other day was National Women's Day.
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, and you weren't on the air, but I wanted to wish you a belated Happy Women's Day.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're a powerful woman. I love your eloquence.
Thank you.
And you're powerful. You really are.
Okay.
All right, so I didn't really quite catch all of the conversation because I'm
just sharing my experience about my EID. I went through the process and I collected mine today. So I was just sharing my experience.
You collected what today?
My EID, my digital ID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
great.
I was just sharing my personal experience on that and what the government purports. I'm not in any way a sales pitch for the government. I'm just sharing my personal experience and how easy it was. And, you know, my concerns and questions were asked. I praised Mr. Ian Tibbetts and Mr. Tyler, who was very attentive, very, very professional, and in the execution of his duties. And I left there with a big smile on my face.
Well, that's wonderful. That's very nice. Well, that has not been my experience with Cayman government. I was born here in 1961.
Mm-hmm.
In 1965, I went to New York. Well, my parents took me to New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I never came back till I think about 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I've traveled all over the world. All over the world.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 passports. It doesn't really matter. It's just paper.
Mm-hmm.
You see, what really matters to me, as far as I'm concerned, is being a citizen of the world. You see, I am just a regular guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just living in a nice little island. And I got a nice little place. And I feed my chickens and I feed my cows. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't care for the paper. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that for some people, having a certain passport means something.
Uh-huh.
And I guess I'm blessed that I could have that many passports.
Right.
But it's kind of irrelevant. When you think of all of the things that are going on in this world, is that piece of paper really mean that much?
Well, you don't know because of, it's funny that you ask that if a piece of paper really means that much, and in this case, a piece of plastic. But where are we running to? You see what's happening in the Gulf right now. You see what's happening right now without going heavily gong-ho political, even in our Caribbean region, right here on our doorsteps. And people are looking for peace.
There are so many countries that are being banned. There's this thing, there's that thing.
Mm-hmm.
All because of a certain man who's going to create his own Vietnam. Nobody's going to win in this nonsense, but there's going to be a lot of money made. Probably about $40 billion a year. And I only know about these things because that's the industry that I work in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I don't care anymore. I'm retired. I just don't care. But I have maybe 15 more years left to live. I'm 64, 79. Maybe I got 80. Maybe I'll make it to 80, according to my genealogy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna drink beer, smoke cigarettes, husk coconuts, fish, and chase girls. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh, you're the, I wouldn't say you're the epitome of a man, but the chasing part, you're grown, you're made hunters. Just do it responsibly, please. So that
I think we're all just regular people.
mm-hmm.
But some people like to compare themselves and say who's better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
They'll always be better or worse. Always.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not better or worse. I'm just a regular guy.
You're just existing.
Well, I'm enjoying, actually.
Good for you.
I'm looking at I'm in my backyard right now. I got a big pot of fish tea. I got a cooler full of beer and coconut water.
Mm-hmm.
I got 3 or 4 friends coming over. And we're going to listen to music.
You're living a dream.
And just
welcome to the tropics.
I live in a tropical paradise.
That's right. We got to be blessed.
Yes, ma'am. Have a great evening, Sabrina.
Likewise, my dear. Thank you. Always good to hear from you. Take care now. Be responsible.
Don't forget.
What?
Don't forget. Happy
Women's
Day.
Say? Yeah.
Happy Women's Day.
Yes. The Cayman Islands, we celebrate it all month.
Yeah.
So you're good.
This is sincere from me to you.
Thank you, sir.
Health, peace, love, and celebrate the day. I love your broadcast.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks
You're
for the feedback.
So professional, and you have such a positive energy. Thank you.
Thank you
for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
The phone lines are open, 345-936-8255. Yes, it's all about me stepping into the future today. Thank you for that feedback. It was good to see some people on my way there. And yeah, you can join in on the conversation, be it this or World Matters or whatever. I mean, hey, this is our space. We're one family, and all comments are welcome. Yes, 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 yes. 345-936-8255. Andrew, how are you? You good? Yep. Damien Charles says, maybe you should study history and empires. This is nothing new. Imagine if Hitler won. I guess you're talking about Damien. He says the chase is more like crawling or being pushed in a wheelchair. Oh, Andrew, you are something else. It's all in the mind. Hello. You would be surprised, my dear. Damien says, and a lot of people don't live the dream. They live in tranny and dictatorship. Yeah. Damien Charles, you know what? As bad as things are, and I'm going to get into another conversation here that made our news headlines today, and that's the bit about our caregivers. Okay, I could go into that a little bit, and I want you all to participate in that, please, because there's one thing for sure: we're all getting older by the second, and you really wonder sometimes if we all are really processing how grateful, how blessed we are to be living in a jurisdiction like the beautiful Cayman Islands, where there's so much at our disposal that many other jurisdictions regionally, meaning in the Caribbean and internationally, would either have to pay for or it doesn't exist. When you look at the amount of NGOs, nonprofit organizations, and some of the things that you can tap into in order to get free services, like the Breast Cancer Association or Society, and you look at all of these people for the amount of the autistic group, the inclusion Cayman, and all of these resources that you don't have to pay a dime to go and get help. And I can understand why there's a public appeal stated on the floor of our parliament by the minister who's responsible for our finances, Honorable Ralston Ebanks Anglin, and he is asking for private sector and all of us to do our part. And I'll go in a little bit more about that. But Damien Charles, we have to be thankful, whether or not, as we see our population continue to grow and our indigenous reality numbers are dwindling, it may not be sustainable. That's the harsh reality. So we still have a lot to be thankful for. But reality, when you hear certain statements are being made, they're coming home to roost. Live happy. So sad to hear the passing of Miss Broderick. A little birdie was in the audience when you was a pageant contestant. Do you remember? Oh, really? Yes, I was. I did enter. I don't remember what I got. First runner-up. I'm not a pageantry person, but yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I sung for my talent. People didn't even know I could sing. Aha. Now I sing even better. Like my last caller. Andrew, Roy must have a big pot of fish tea. At least he has a positive attitude with all the crazy stuff. Let me tell you something. Look, Roy's living a dream. Can't blame him. I love him to death. Love him to death. Good for him. That sounds like how I would live the dream in the BRAC. Here, it's more work for me. It's amazing that we're different districts, of course, separated by a body of water. But when I go to the BRAC, oh God, no shoes, dragging slippers. Who cares? Riding a bicycle, doing all sorts of stuff. That's what I would be doing. You just don't want to go in my hammock. That's the dream over there. Hey, Dean, how you doing? Welcome. Aliano, I see you were saying something. Good evening, my love. How are you this evening? So good to have you back with us. At the beginning, I wished you well wishes. Yes. And Dean is with us. Any idea how much money government will make from this immigration reform? I guess we'll have to wait for the powers that be to tell us what that's going to be. And Dean, to be honest, you can't really right now put a figure to that as yet, because when the law does go into effect on All Fools Day, April 1st, unless it's changed to another date, that's when you're going to really see how much people will actually apply for any application. So
day one starts from when it commences. You can't actually count all of the people who have already started their term limit now into how much money they're going to make from this reform. You will not actually see that until after the law commences. You get what I'm saying? Because until it starts, all the revenue right now that's being made is under the current law. And remember, a lot of these people were grandfathered in, meaning they're going to be dealt with under the old law. But it would be interesting to see how whatever revenue is made after and whenever it goes into effect, how those numbers are going to be used, because it wouldn't be a true reflection if they're really being dealt with under the old system. So remember, the qualification time for persons, let's say, let's use status at random on the grounds of marriage. They're saying 20 years. How many people are going to apply for it? How many people? And so it's going to be interesting exactly what those numbers will be. But just a starting point, you can't really start counting until the law comes into effect, Dean. So we'll have to watch the numbers, or Minister of Finance should be able to do that. And of course, Mr. Jefferson as well. It'll be interesting. Got to keep our eyes on that. And that could also impact work permits. Dean, so let's see. Let's do a reset at 1st April right now, or whenever it takes effect. Damian Charles, yes, because I've lived and seen what happens in certain countries and the reality. Okay, thank you for sharing that with us, my love. You are right. My mother says it's high time now that people stop running from country to country. It's time. It's the same everywhere. For true, it ain't nowhere to go. We are so blessed. You look at the cleanliness of our roads. I heard that they were actually debating the pilot program now of rolling out those receptacles island-wide. When I took office in 2021, the pilot was already there. The area that they were doing their testing on was already chosen from before me. I just said, look, this is long overdue. This is being talked about from 2013. For God's sakes, Mr. Sims, just get it out. Now it looks as though they're doing another pilot now, I guess, to get cost implications, which should be already on file. Anyhow, what it would cost to run it all over the island. Why you need a pilot, I don't know. But what I'm saying is the information was already there based on the sampling that was in all the data that was collected from when it rolled out in 2022 or 2023, 2022. So I'm happy to see that. But when you look at the cleanliness of our streets, when you look at the even healthcare or infrastructure of our roads, you look at our health, I said healthcare, health facilities, and accessing to public health services. You have NGOs, nonprofit organizations right here. And even so, what government takes on to pay for people with accessing healthcare, helping them with their utilities and food and all of that sort of stuff. Let me tell you something. We need to stop complaining, and we need to really take a reality check that we're not like we're paying into a social security fund. We're not paying anything, even though they says we're not paying tax directly, but indirectly is just as bad. But what I'm saying is there is no separate pool outside private pensions and government funds that we have to tap into so that we can either age with dignity, or when and if there is a shortfall from incoming revenue, which we know is tourism, financial sector. We want to try to look at other tourism industries for bringing in a revenue. Outside of that, who you think is paying the bill? Government. So when I get into this other section and certain statements are being made, that's profound what is being said. And it's not to say that we don't have a responsibility to take care of our people, but food for thought. And I would welcome some feedback on this. Should it be 100% borne on the government? Really?
or should it be shared responsibility when it comes to dealing with our seniors, and especially some of the cases that we know are really existing? Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Andrew says, how much money does government make from work permits, permanent residence, and status grants last year? I'd have to dig that up. I don't want to quote sources, but I know it's a huge amount. And we know for sure that the numbers will continue to climb with 1GT coming on, with the hotel in the front of Marin's Plaza. I'm just time stamping myself. Next there by Grand Ole House. No, the Wharf. And then there's another complex, I think, up at Beach Bay that's coming on board. And you still have other services that are not big names that are opening up every day. And we still see small mom and pop stores. We see where the Department of Commerce and Investment have rolled out for their micro and small business incentives again. That is creating an environment for innovators, for entrepreneurs, that sort of stuff, by relaxing the trade and business fees based on your income as you declare. And for the record, I shared a little bit on that in Open Mic Friday. And if you know that you have taken advantage of this government incentive programs, I want you to pay close attention to the email that you received, because you need to be declaring whether or not you're making over the amounts that is stated there if you declared as a micro business or a small business. So if you don't want to hand over your documents, similar to like doing your tax returns to the government, then you know what you better do? You better go in and pay your fees to the government, because the government is paying for your trade and business fees that allows you to engage in business and offer services and get paid for it. They have the right to ask you to declare, to play your hand so that they can see exactly what is coming into your business. If you don't want that, then you know what? I strongly suggest you pay your trade and business fees, because some of those fees ain't that much based on what you know you can make in your company. It all depends on the type of services. So that's just a word of caution to my people out there who have or may have been eligible to qualify as a micro and small business, and you know you're making over the certain amount. Some of you, one contract can go way over that based on the type of business you're doing. So I just want to caution you on that, because you don't want to end up being one on the courts for defrauding the government and for not complying with the terms and conditions of that trade and business. Damien Charles says, plot done as an experiment or test before being introduced to more widely. Yeah, but they've already done it, Damien. They must be did almost 2-3 years of that in that pilot program. And it was done in an area where there was mixed residential, certain size houses, apartments, duplexes, houses that have been turned to apartment complexes, but it looks like a single dwelling. So they have a good sampling. I'm just saying, not questioning them. They must know what they're doing. Wake up, Cayman. The digital ID got shot down here in the UK. Yeah, but I tell you what, tell the truth. They make an living hard, a living hell with certain things. I've seen the flip side of that. But isn't it a case where it's optional as well? Wake up, Cayman. Please tell me whether or not it is an opt-in still. I don't think it's completely gone away. They're just coming around a different way. I think eventually it's still going to be there. Andrew said, the more people here generates more revenue for government. The economy benefits. I get that. However, we have to balance the scale carefully. And we have rapid retired aging population over 60. Now, the STEP survey tells that, Andrew. We have an aging society. And with births of our own on the decline, that in itself says a lot. So, yeah, who's going to pay for that? And we realized that because we came in on the 8 ball when it came to people paying into a pension scheme, we had persons who were retiring civil servants, retiring teachers and all that sort of stuff, that they barely, before the uplift the other day, were getting, some of them not even $300. And they were retired. They were aged out of the system. So yeah, a lot of these persons, and remember that if you are working in private sector, even today, Andrew, once you reach that retirement age and you start tapping out and you tap out and you take your amounts, once it's done. Meaning, once they have finished paid you out your pension, let's say you're not able to work or the systems don't even want to employ you because of your age and you get sick, you're going to end up on Cineco. You're going to end up on the government's insurance because we realize that the cost in healthcare continues to increase. And all it takes, and I can remember Nikki Hill saying this on Sandra's show, and she said it more than once here, it only takes one medical issue to bankrupt people. One test, one treatment medication can actually bankrupt somebody. So yeah, it is a balancing act. It's almost like standing on a balancing beam. Good evening, Andre. It's good to have you here. Damien says, your bank should provide a letter of how much you made and not need to show bank statements. For what though, Damien? Oh, for your for the declaration. Damien, you see? Now I tell you, the government gave you somewhat a free ride. They actually make the rules. If you feel that's too invasive, pay the fee. Trust me, that's all I'm going to say. Pay the fee. And no, I don't know anything, but what I'm saying is, as we see the economy possibly constricts, becomes more tight, where revenue may slow down, we got to be aware of what's happening geopolitically. We're already hearing the cost of healthcare. We're already hearing what the Minister of Finance is giving a caution to one particular sector of people. Trust me, we ask about accountability from the civil servants. If we have an idea of how much revenue government is possibly losing by offering this incentive program, knowing if you run your business properly, the potential of the amount of money you can make in some of your businesses versus what the thresholds of incomes can be, they have every right to ask you for your statements, not a reference. So my advice to anyone, and we ask for accountability, I can see that accountability being put to the task, because remember, government is giving you something and they're only asking you to be honest. Aliano says, I was always confused because our government keep forcing new laws to micromanage all up in people's business, not wanting to be, look here, at the end of the day, fascists, Aliano, they have a right to do it. They can write the rules of the game. You ever heard the saying, there's nothing called a free lunch? It is nothing. There is no free lunch. You said the equal measure of the stick is never fair to hold a person selling jerk chicken on the street versus $1 million insurance companies to held the same legislation, or maybe hyperbolic. The equal measure of stick is never. Oh, okay. Well, you see that there is some limitations though, but the insurance companies are away from that. So it's only certain businesses can actually take advantage of it, to be honest. So yeah, you got to read it. I had it here, but I'll try and see if I can find it, but I'll definitely put the link on. Damien business. This is businesses that employ for, not including the employer. Hey, Miss Lucille, wakey over there in the UK. Good to have you joining us this evening, and I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so for those of you, I got my digital ID. Danny Warren, I could call you out. I know, my love, I know. We miss you. That's all right. But yeah, I gotta rub it on Danny. It's just an inside joke with me and Danny, okay? I just getting at him. The man, not for full disclosure, he said he's not against the digital ID, okay? So when you hear me throwing jabs at Danny It's not that. It is really an inside thing because he can handle it. He get my weird sense of humor. Okay. So yeah, there we go. But let me switch gears now. And again, the phone lines are open, 936-8255. If you want to join in this. And I want to hear your opinion on this. You know, when you look, making sure that I don't get political, because I want to make sure I have to maintain a level of decorum when it comes to this topic because it is emotive. And we're all got one road to go, and that road is that we're getting older. When you hear, and this goes back to an article that was posted, and I mentioned it in the news segment here when we started. What the Minister of Finance laid out in Parliament is more than a line item in the budget. You know, I hope you all realized what was being said. Really and truly, what he is doing is really actually highlighting, signaling a warning about where this country financially is heading if we don't rethink how we care for our seniors. You hear me? Because right now, cynical, as he stated, the home health care program, and listen to these numbers, is costing just over 11 million CI dollars a year. You know how much $11 million is? A year. That's how much it's costing you and me, the people of the Cayman Islands, just for that service. That's taken away from your schools. That's taken away from your roads. That's taken away from other infrastructures. That's taken away from other things nationally that a government could be looking at or against. We're saying we want more cost of living to go down, and we got all of these ideas of how we should do it and all of that sort of stuff. We want to limit the amount of work permits, as Andrew alluded to earlier on, when only this offering that is right now paid for by this country for healthcare programs, and some people need 2, some as much as 3 care providers based on their situation. Right now, this program is costing the Cayman Islands, out of the country's, the people's purse, a little over $11 million a year. And when you hear the Honorable Minister making it clear that this allowance is no longer being used mainly for medical recovery, that is saying, look, it's being extended. It's becoming what it really is, assisted living. And it was never intended for that. And the reason that he pointed it out is that he has observed, based on the cases, that too many seniors they have nowhere to go. They're not sick enough to remain in hospital. They're not well enough to go home, and we lack that interim environment, not social housing. Please do mix up the two. You're not sick enough to remain in the hospital, but you're not well enough to go home, and there's a middle gap before you go home. And then you will have some cases where the home surroundings is not conducive, is not fixed up a way or in any condition that probably you may never be able to go in or to go home, to be back on your own, right? So what it started off to is not what it has actually become. And it's more taken on the identity of assisted living finances. And what is being said, that if the allowance is adjusted to match he's had to do that to match the minimum wage because some of these people are also under a separate bucket getting funds from government as well. So they're not only getting, you see where it's going around in a circle? They're getting assistance to possibly pay for utilities, food, and just to survive. And then they find themselves may need someone to assist them. But when he actually quoted some other numbers that if the allowances are adjusted to match the minimum wage, which is now the national minimum wage, the program alone could grow by another $9 million every year. That's $20 million a year. Because remember, you can't pay some of these caregivers below the national minimum wage. And if government has to do the difference, and this was a concern with certain districts throughout our 3 Cayman Islands, that their only income is government assistance, and how the impact of this national minimum wage would even impact those persons. So we now have a case where it's going to climb just because of the national minimum wage to $20 million a year. And when you actually look forward into the future, where this cost could end up by 2028, 2029, $20 million to $24 million next year. And that's $29 million is forecasted by 2028. That is still in this administration's tenure. Remember, elections not till 2029. So you think the Minister of Finance isn't awake? You got another guest coming. We need roads. We need better schools. We need better hospital facilities. We need better this. We need another capital projects and all of this sort of stuff. You understand? But that's just this, dealing with our seniors alone. We're looking at just that one line item, possibly be looking at $24 million, $29 million by 2028. Next year, 24 million. Who is going to pay that? Where are we going to get it from? If we don't either increase revenues or have it coming in from some other stream. And yet we still have a responsibility to deal with our seniors with dignity. Bottom line, the coded message just being sent, my Caymanian people, is that these numbers are not sustainable, meaning it cannot continue. He's not saying that they're going to stop it. He's saying it's just not sustainable at the current pace in which it is going. And when you look at a country, or any country, but specifically for one Earth size, Houston, we got a problem. And if you date back in Hansard's from as far back as possibly 2017, someone has been sounding alarm at the cost of healthcare. And this was not a line item at that time with such a high balance or forecasted amount. So at the end of the day, let's be fair. The program has protected our people. I got to be honest, which is why I say as a jurisdiction, we are a blessed jurisdiction because it has protected our people who would have been left behind. It has allowed our seniors to actually live with dignity and to also recover with dignity. And it has also supported families who genuinely just cannot afford to pay, but yet they need the care. And it also shows And it reflects Cayman's values and compassions and community. But at the end of the day, it's coming home to roost. But in all fairness, that is really something we should all be proud of. The downside to all of that is that, yeah, we have to look at the other side now, which is what I'm seeing the Minister of Finance is saying. It has shifted its characteristics for what it was intended to be and is now being used for something else. It's now taking on the identity of assisted long-term living and not short-term medical care. There's a big difference. And when you're talking about assisted living, that could be to the end of somebody's life. That was not what the program was intended for. And that is the downside of why these numbers are continuing to increase. The disadvantage as well is that hospitals are discharging seniors who really and honestly have no safe home environment to even return to, because they know themselves that these patients are not well enough to remain in a normal home environment. And the other reality is that, and it's also a downside, is that some families are just overwhelmed and some are just stepping back entirely. Yeah, they're just like leaving their loved ones at the hospital, in the hospitals, and who's paying for that? And the cost curve, the whole of this is rising faster than the country's revenue base. That, my friends, is only in healthcare. Yeah. This, my friends, is not about blame. It's simply about true reality of what we're facing here. Yeah. Let me get to some of the comments here. Damien says, offshore bank and hedge funds fees can increase by 1%. Offshore bank and hedge fund fees can increase by 1%. That's a statement, or are you telling us? Aliano, Miss Sabrina, it's a very common issue of living in Cayman. The rich doing what live rich and the poor people suffering, but we keep voting for our oppression. Aliano, you something else, you know. One thing with you keep them entertained and you're actually getting better. It takes you off of your situation. But it's very true what you're saying. I don't think anybody can disagree with you to a degree, honestly. Yep. We on Lock Nation under one ambassador under what president? Start independent. Okay. Andrew says, whoa, the figures outgoing versus the incoming are alarming. We need to look at some serious cost savings and new revenue earning streams without introducing any taxes. Andrew, now you tell me how you could do that. They tried. Remember? The licensing fees is just one. Some of these same immigration fees are two. Some of the big, for the financial industry as well, fees have gone up, which we have heard people in the financial industry that says they were long overdue. I'm not from the industry, so I can't speak about it. So I take the feedback. But what I'm saying is, with the portability of people and the ability to also work from anywhere in the world and still do business here without having to pay, let's say, pension, medical, set up a bricks and mortar office, unless you're doing it for tax purposes. Some of these businesses don't necessarily have to do business here physically to create job openings as well. They're portable and they could have persons working here for a Cayman-based business as well. So the taxes and stuff will be, if we continue to create an environment, which is why it is imperative that when our Minister of Financial Services, the Honorable Premier, speaks, he has to come with a level of where it's not heavily private sector, the corporate side, because when you speak, sometimes you miss the little man And there's a trickle-down effect of certain things in order to keep the scales balanced. And when you look at the financial services, and yes, some of the revenues and fees that have been increased, that is being imposed, that's actually helping for us to assist paying some of these bills. But if it is not being conveyed, communicated, so that every person would understand that we're all interlinked some way, somehow, it could be missed by the little man who is doing a pop-up shop, from the micro and small businesses. We all play a critical role in a country's bottom line. And it is said that who contributes most to a national income are really small businesses. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Auntie Sabrina. How are you?
Hello, Alfred. How are you?
I'm all right. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear, like Bell South.
Okay. I have a question for you and to the audience.
Go ahead.
And you know me, you know my role, right? What's wrong? What would be so wrong if Cayman introduced taxation?
Just a word
Direct
that people
taxation.
cringe. Well, people will say we got it already. It's just indirect. We're not calling it what it is. Maybe the indirect statement made on the floor of Parliament is that we're on that road. What I'm saying is, caller, this is real, and that's only the healthcare industry. We are not looking at the DFA and how much funds it's taken to fund that as well. You understand what I'm saying? But healthcare continues. If introducing taxation, I'm just going there, that's a wider discussion. And you have to fill the space with the pros and the cons and just bring the facts out. It's hard to actually introduce it now for a jurisdiction that has lived all along to say, look, we're not to pay taxes at all. So I don't know. That's a wider discussion.
Yeah, but
I don't have an opinion.
The thing about the gravy train,
yeah,
but the thing about the gravy train is that the train eventually runs out of gravy at some point.
And that is exactly what he's signaling.
Right. So my question, I guess, would be, right? Given that, you know, our Cayman's revenue base is tied heavily to imports, licensing, service fees, et cetera,
right? Fees, PR fees, status, naturalization, all of them. Yep.
Right. Wouldn't it be what's the word I'm looking for? Wouldn't a modest, well-designed tax system spread the burden more transparently and, depending on how it's structured, more fairly, and relying so heavily on things like duties and fees that get baked into the everyday cost of living here at Cayman?
Well, like I said, the first step, my friend, is to start the conversation and come with it full circle, where you look at other measures in trying to get other revenue sources and the reality. Because what doesn't stop happening is people needing the same healthcare, assisted living, needing referrals for overseas, insurance being exhausted. That, my love, don't stop until we try to get it right. And the alarm that's being sounded right now is not even looking at healthcare in its totality. It's just for those caregivers. So I have a comment, a statement that was made. It ties into what you said. We definitely do not currently pay income tax. And that would be a completely different life for us. I would support civil servants having to pay deductible on their health insurance plan, because that is the deterrent from the running to the HSA for a buck dough. CIG can remain as is by not deducting premiums But a deductible needs to be implemented because now it's 100% for everything.
Yeah, but to that comment about the civil service, I mean, from what I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Seneco is only accepted at HSA or through HSA. If you're asking civil servants to pay a deductible toward their insurance, and I think it's only fair that then the civil servants say, well, I want choice as to where I go. I shouldn't have to go through HSA, then I should be able to go anywhere if I have to pay.
Agreed. And I think I stand to be corrected, but I think there was a discussion that there is some pilot now going out where they're actually exploring other healthcare providers within a select network that the cynical persons and possibly, I stand to be corrected. I'm going to look at it a little bit more because I heard it just in passing, that is something that they're rolling out right now as a pilot, similar to what you're saying. Now, I didn't hear that there's a cost implication to the civil servants of giving this preference of choice, but right, what I understood is that there are a select amount of healthcare providers that would be in this network, that person not having to be referred from HSA, you would be able to just go straight to these select providers. But I don't know if there's going to be a cost implication on the employees after the pilot.
Well, I mean, I'll say this as one Caymanian to another.
Mm-hmm.
I am not against a limited, smartly designed tax system.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think from a stability perspective, right, where our government revenue is tied on imports, property activity, the different licensing fees, and et cetera, right? And the official financial reports show that stamp duty revenue rises and falls with property transaction volume and values, and then you got some regulatory fee collections that vary with registrations and timing.
Mm-hmm.
I think a broader tax base could make public revenue less dependent on booms in real estate and immigration-related fees or financial services cycles.
Well said.
Like you said, it starts with a conversation.
Yeah, it starts with the conversation. And a commenter on WhatsApp says that you are correct, but that's the package. Imagine how much higher the medical bills would be if they had private medical options. I don't agree that a deductible warrants a different opinion for private healthcare, but he is a civil servant and I am not. So, okay. So who feels it knows it. Okay, I get the point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for somebody who is in there, I mean, it's a total different environment for us out here in private sector that we know what it is to pay in. For someone who's never worked in private sector, it may be something, but caller, I agree with you. The conversation needs to start to be had with realities. And it is sad that the conversation has begun with the true person, a true member of parliament, calling out this and saying the words. It's not sustainable. He can say that in that position, caller, because he's seeing the true bills as the Minister for Finance. That's only one area I can tell you, because when the true numbers and the trajectory from the Department of Financial Assistance come in and you combine all of those together, let me tell you something. Remember, life still happens and the bills will not go away. Mm-hmm. But how do you balance that? And I applaud the minister. I applaud him for doing it, because the mere fact that he's saying it's not sustainable, some would not say it for fear of not being reelected, because people may actually translate it as saying, so what, he want to stop my health benefits? What he's saying? You understand what I'm saying? I am glad in his position, he found the fortitude to say the truth. because not many would say it, even if they see it in their own ministries and say it like that. Bottom line, it's not sustainable. And that's what he's saying. And I applaud him for that because it's the truth. To me, people of civil society would be more understanding if you really come out and speak the truth and you have the real conversation. Caller, you and I are a partner. We're husband and wife. We're living together. And we're like, look, let's have the real conversation with you constantly, you going out every night or every Friday. This is not sustainable because we can't do the addition onto the house and pay for our little Johnny to go to school with you going out every Friday night and living this brunch thing every Sunday. It's not sustainable. That is no different when it comes to running your country.
You're going to have to make cuts.
Exactly. And then we sit down as two people in that household and have the hard conversation. And guess what happens in our household?
What can you do to bring more money in?
Exactly. Well,
it's true because if you want to maintain, but using your example, if I want to maintain that brunch lifestyle, it's either, well, can you get another job or can you get a higher job or what would you do to bring more money in if you want to sustain that lifestyle?
The song came to mind. Gonna make that money.
So let me just say this. Using your analogy of hard conversation, right? This is where I think, talking now from a governance perspective, when citizens pay taxes directly, they usually demand more accountability, better spending, better reporting, better value for money. We all hear about that word, value for money, right? And what that can create is a healthier relationship between the public and the government, because people stop seeing government revenue as something that just is magically produced by permits and duties, and they start treating it as their money. And I think that's more a matter of a political culture than hard economics, but I think it's a real benefit in many places. If we just, like the gravy train will run out of gravy.
Right.
They're gonna crash at some point. Yeah. So I'll leave you with that. I'm for taxation. I'm for a smart, efficient tax system for Caymanians.
There we go. Well, the conversation has begun. The conversation. Thank you so much.
I'll leave you right there.
Yes, always a pleasure to have you joining me. 936-8255. The phone lines are open if you want to weigh in. We had some messages that came in on the social media platform while our caller there, Alfred, was on with us. It says, Dean says, talk about DFA, aka NAU. Do we know how much of these grandfather in Caymanians under this immigration reform will become clients of NAU? A study of the economical status of the economy needs to be done to see where they fit in or make room for them. Dean, you are quite right. You are quite right. Well, one thing for sure I have seen is that our very own, they're almost embarrassed to know that they have to go there. It's one thing with our Caymanians, Dean, that I can attest. Services are there, but the dignity, the environment is not conducive, and they're embarrassed that they may fall in hard times. Some, it's not of their own. Life just happened. But you're quite right. We have just possibly opened up the room for this grandfather in that they too would be entitled. They would be entitled to it. Danny says here, government should not spend more than they make. I don't hear any MP saying that. There we go. And another one by Danny says, rising taxes constantly is unsustainable. Well, we're seeing where the bills are going up, and I don't understand Like I said, I applaud him for saying that because that is a hard conversation to have. And coming from an elected member of parliament saying that it's not sustainable, he needs to be applauded because at least you can say the man isn't sounding the alarm. We're going to take a call and then I'll continue with some messages on the screen. Good evening, caller. You're live.
Good evening, Sabrina. Good evening to the listeners. The last comment that you got from the person who said, well, how many of the grandfathered in people might wind up on the NAU?
Yeah.
That has prompted me to sort of make a point I've made before, but just to also try to extend that discussion a little bit. First of all, there was never, ever, as far as I'm aware, a regulatory impact assessment in relation to the immigration law. Regulatory impact assessment, I don't know whether when you were in cabinet you used to have those. I know that they never used to have them during my time. But like in the UK, if you are going to do any piece of legislation, you are going to have a regulatory impact assessment. And basically that is just a fancy way of saying, do you have a proper report that is saying what the pros and cons of that legislation is? And one of the things that you would do, for example, in relation to this immigration matter is to find out from past experience, the statuses that you've given in the past, how many of those have wound up on NAU, which the other caller, the messenger there was saying. Okay? But that is not just that. It is just everything else, like how is this going to impact the schools? How is it going to impact the traffic? Think about everything that you can. How is it going to impact the social cohesion in the society? I mean, there are people who are specialized as sociologists, as microeconomists, as finance people, transportation people. All those people are supposed to come in and contribute to that regulatory impact assessment. And what this government has not done clearly is that it hasn't done that. And even more serious is the fact that they have avoided those issues. I mean, there are a lot of Caymanians, including, people like myself who have joined Caymanians in saying, please tell us what you want to achieve and what the ups and downs are going to be on this. And they have just totally avoided that. To me, I find that to be a problem. Now, the other thing that I'm interested in particular, like which they might have covered in the regulatory impact assessment, is one that relates to the points system. Because the point system, they are working on it, I understand, and in the regulations, that's one of the many areas that they are going to deal with. Now, in relation to that, it has always been mentioned, usually mentioned anyway, that the prices of real estate have gone up in Cayman because of the fact that you are required to, or not required, or rather that if you buy a property, you are likely to make more points so that you can make the threshold to get PR. Now, I have no doubt that to some degree affects the prices of houses and real estate in general. But I have a suspicion, again, because of a lack of a regulatory impact assessment, it's very difficult for anybody to say with any degree of certainty.
Correct.
But what I can hazard a guess.
That's factual.
Yeah,
because
that is
people
factual.
do these surveys and they're not telling the truth.
Yeah. And to me, I think what influences the price of real estate is more the fact that you can buy land or any property in the Cayman Islands without government approval. Now, and we can learn from what has happened in Hawaii. Hawaii is, of course, part of the United States. Cayman is not. But as far as freedom goes to buy land, Cayman is no different from Hawaii. Anybody from the mainland in the United States can go to Hawaii and buy land. And what has happened in Hawaii is that the local people have been priced out of the market. They are just saying that if you are a young man, a young woman, a young couple leaving school, leaving college, and you want to buy land, you want to buy a house, they are saying they can't afford it. Because anybody from the mainland can come and buy land there. The prices are just, they've gone through the roof. And that's basically what has happened in the Cayman Islands as well. I think that that is a greater influencer of prices going up rather than, people who are trying to get residency. Because again, I would love a survey which tells me, which says, okay, take a survey of people who have bought land, say, in the first 2 years when they come to Cayman, or the first 5 years, and you ask them, why did you buy a house? Did you buy a house because you are planning to apply for permanent residency, or were you going to buy a house anyway to avoid having to pay rent for so many years without any investment? Now, I imagine there are a lot of people in Cayman who bought houses when they came without any intention really of either staying for 8 or 9 years, but they just bought it to say, look, while I'm here, I will be better off to start building equity in a home so that when I leave, I can sell the house and be able to get some equity rather than leave and having left all the money to the person from whom I was renting. I believe that there's a significant portion of people who buy houses not because of that, because they want to use it with a point system. Now, why am I saying that? I'm saying that because if people are buying houses anyway, even if you were to remove that requirement from PR grants, it is hardly likely to affect the number of people, at least not significantly, those who are buying houses. So if it doesn't significantly affect that number, then it means that you are not likely to have that effect in the market, of prices going down. My suspicion is it is simply because you don't have, as a foreigner, to be a local, to get government approval to buy property. In Bermuda, I understand, which is much smaller than Cayman. In Bermuda, I understand that because of that problem, they created areas where they said, in this area you can't buy land unless you are Bermudan, because they were trying to deal with that problem. So again, I'm not saying that it is wrong to double check the system and see whether that requirement to buy property is affecting the price of land a lot. I think it is affecting to some degree, but I don't think that by removing that it will fundamentally solve the problem of high prices. Now, am I suggesting that government should relook at that policy? I wouldn't even try because that policy is so well entrenched. I don't imagine that there's anybody who can get up now and say, hey, from now on, we are going to be like the British Virgin Islands. You can't have property unless you've got status. I'm not quite sure. But I think in terms of inquiring into that issue, those are the issues they need to inquire into. To what extent really is this requirement of having property, or the people who are buying property in order to get permanent residency? How is it affecting that? I don't think it is.
Okay.
But the second point I want to touch is about the way in which I think in Cayman, successive governments have failed to maintain the visibility of Caymanians in different areas of society. I think in a previous call, either it's you or maybe Sandra, I mentioned about how it hit me that when I was looking at the video I was watching it live, the opening of the Grand Court, I didn't see Caymanians there. So all the judges were not.
You mentioned it here.
It was here. I mentioned it. Yeah.
Segment.
Okay, yeah. Thanks very much. So that I don't have to sort of like repeat it too much. There it was. You could have been in Jamaica or in England, but somehow apparently that does not seem to concern some people. Okay. Then when I looked at the Heroes Day, the awards, there I saw Caymanians. Okay. And it was good to see Caymanians there, but also it underlined just a dichotomy that is developing in the community. But an issue I may have also mentioned has to do with, a few years ago, they were celebrating Parliament, like an anniversary, I think the 25th or 50th anniversary, something like that, of the establishment of the Cayman Parliament. And there was a ceremony there. They brought Dr. Lloyd Barnett, a very distinguished person who has written books and is also a legal practitioner, very, very erudite from Jamaica. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, they brought him over and he's the one who gave the main speech in Parliament. And then the one who opened for him, like gave a short speech and his own talk. And then before Dr. Lloyd Barnett came on was Richard Barton. Richard Barton, as far as I'm aware, has been in Cayman since high school or thereabouts, maybe even earlier. But basically, he's Jamaican, right? Okay,
He's
I would imagine
Caymanian.
he has status.
Caymanian.
Yeah, well, yeah, to me, he's Jamaican. To me, anybody who comes and gets status, they still maintain their nationality, their original nationality. But that's my personal preference. But he has status, okay? He's not a Caymanian like the Caymanian that I know, but he's a Caymanian. And I have no problem with that. But do you see the complexion that that occasion had? You had one status holder who has done good work. I have no problem with him. In fact, I worked a little bit with him in the portfolio of legal affairs, although he was in a different department. But do you see, basically, you've got somebody who originates from Jamaica originally, and then a Jamaican. They are the two people who spoke on an occasion when you are celebrating the establishment of Parliament in Cayman. Couldn't you get maybe a son, at least one of those two, to be a son or a grandson of, I don't miss your heroes in the Cayman Islands?
I get where you're going with that.
Exactly. And then, what were the other two significant things that were done there? You had Gloria McField Nixon. She was Master of Ceremonies. I'll say Master of Ceremonies. I don't like the other word, you know. She's Master of Ceremonies. Again, no problem in itself. And then when the ceremony moved outside, you had Matt Brown. Matt Brown is one of the most talented people you will ever find anywhere. If he was in the States, that guy, he would have been a multimillionaire today, hosting the Oscars and, you know, doing those kinds of things. But you see, my problem with that is that the Caymanians were left to do these menial jobs, like to be MC and to do the jokes. But the ones who were celebrating and really giving the speeches were none of your own people. And to me, it hit me straight away. But apparently in Cayman, that doesn't seem to worry most people. And to me, the government has to work on issues like that. You see, when I went to university...
Do you think it's because we're just now at a crossroads where we're understanding it, caller? And I got beat up my people. How do you identify it when you're not even aware? It's only recently people are even tuning in, unless you are someone who really follow up Parliament, understanding the roles. How are they going to be able to identify that? How have you broken that down? Not to throw stones at anybody, but I get exactly what you're saying. You cannot really fault my people if they are only now being truly informed, educated, removing the curtains from the reality. They wouldn't have been able to identify that back in 2023. I think it was when it happened, or 24.
Yeah. Well, you see, again, let me emphasize, there's none of those people, of all those four people I've mentioned there. I think there's nobody there who I say should not have been there. But all I'm saying is one of the two people, at least, who were talking to the history of the Parliament, one of those two really should have been a Caymanian, a generational Caymanian, who some name we could recognize. Oh, this is Mr. Benson's grandson, or this is Jim Borden's grandson or son, or this is Merrin's. This is one of the lawyers from the Merrin family. You know, that kind of thing. To me, that's something that you would have had. I'll tell you though what the problem is, and the problem has already been identified. One of the main proponents of this is Roy Borden. Roy Borden says in his latest book, which I got it from a friend of mine in Cayman, and I've been reading it, but I've made very slow progress. But he has, again, very early pages, he has made the point that there is a lack of ideological direction in the Cayman Islands. Kids go to school and they are taught math and geography and the king and America and this and that. but they are not taught, they are not given a certain ideological direction, so that when they go out there in the open world, they start meeting these subtle ways in which people try to exploit you, try to say, oh, you are qualified, but not quite qualified. It's like the kids in Cayman are not sufficiently armed to deal with those ideological battles. And there's a problem also when they become politicians as well. I can see they are not armed. I can tell you that. I think another thing I might have mentioned to you, when I first went to university, the university I first went to, we were told we do not want to graduate people who are fools, who go out there, they know how to do math, they know architecture, they know mining engineering, they know law, but they have no understanding of the way the international political system tries to exploit minorities and small countries and so on. So that in Cayman, for example, sometimes people are told, well, you are overqualified. That's the oldest trick which they used to use even in colonial times. The first lawyer who qualified is being used today. You are overqualified. Or sometimes they will tell you, well, you know, the job in which you are trying to do, you can't really do it properly unless you go and work in England for 4 or 5 years. Even if the kid says, oh, but I went to England and I studied and I came back. You mean my experience here doesn't matter? My experience in Cayman, when I'm going to work in Cayman, once I get the qualifications, you mean I can't do that? Oh, no. You see, what you need is, you see, after 5, 6 years, you really can't do this job. You need 15 years. And you see, because it comes like advice being given to you as if by a mentor, there is a way in which your guard is down and you start believing it. I was being told when I started writing legislation, they said, you know, oh, this job is so tough. You see, you need 10, 15 years experience, sometimes 20 years experience for you to be able to write laws. You know what I found out later on? In Australia, first of all, generally speaking, in Australia, they don't take you to a university to go and study how to write legislation. They used to have an institute there, but it didn't last for a long time. They teach you in the office. And at the end of 5 to 6 years, according to their documents, 5 to 6 years, you are considered to be a senior drafter at a lower level, but you are a senior drafter. In other words, after 6 years, you should be able to write legislation without supervision. But what I was being told when I was coming up, I was being told you need 15 or 20 years, which is total rubbish. And then once I became myself an established drafter, and I now can tell you exactly how to train a drafter, what works and what doesn't work. I can tell you, for example, that very often it's better to train somebody full-time for 1 year and then they gain experience than just to allow them just to gain experience, unless you have a structured system in an office where you can have a senior drafter who does not lecture to the people there, but gives them structured work. You know, to say, okay, you've done this kind of work. I don't want you to do this anymore. I want you to do this next kind of work because I don't want you at the end of 6 years to have done 1 or 2, 3 kinds of work. I want you at the end of 5 or 6 years to have done 10, 15 different kinds of work. So for me in Cayman, the people are still having their lunch eaten by people who tell them that if they can get a guy from the UK with 3 O levels, it's better than having your own Caymanian with a master's degree in that particular area to do work. And the problem is the politicians are not doing their job. The politicians in the Cayman Islands, most of them, to be frank with you, have got no vision. They've got no vision whatsoever of how to try and develop the psyche of the young kids who are growing up, so that when they go out there, they'll say, hey, today there were 4 new cases. 2 of them, you know, one is my uncle, the other one is my cousin, and they are now cases, you know. Then they can go to court and argue cases as cases. Every time they are seeing cases who are not an Ebanks, a Bush, a Borden, or any of those people, they are seeing, you know, people who are cases are people other than themselves. Then as they are growing up, the kids, they are feeling deep down inside that maybe they are not smart. Let me just end on one point. This is one of my favorite points. You see, in the United States, for example, this is, of course, the same tricks were being used through Jim Crow and so forth. It used to be said a long time ago that black people could not be quarterbacks. They say that black people were strong and powerful, but they couldn't be quarterbacks. And the reason they couldn't be quarterbacks is, one, to be a quarterback, you have to be very smart. Black people are not smart. Also, to be a quarterback, you have to have leadership qualities. Black people by nature don't have leadership qualities. Also, to be a quarterback, you have to be able to rein in your emotions. Under pressure, you need to be able to act in a cool way. Black people can't afford that. You know, they get angry easily and so on and so forth. And that was the stereotype about black people, and they were kept away from being quarterbacks because of those silly, stupid, prejudices. Today, of course, black people being what we are, they fought and they proved themselves. And today, black people are overrepresented at the position of quarterback. And if in Cayman we can start learning from some of those things, I think maybe there might be a vision which might lead the young people and the whole country to the promised land where Caymanians can be in charge of their own country, and proudly so. I'll leave it there.
Sir, I was asked, and I will actually let you close this section out with a
Cut!
Thank you very much. It was asked for by Damian Charles because of something that you said, sir. Thank you very much. I always, with Mr. Balika, you don't know what he has in store, but I tell you, there have always been nuggets of reality that the gentleman has been able to share, and I appreciate him. I appreciate all of you who actually contribute to all of the conversations here, because many days, lots of information that you can take away. And we have, I'm going to catch up in my WhatsApp here. And this is going back to the former conversation about the taxation for being introduced. This is fine. I honestly think we do not have a choice. This is where taxation is concerned. And we will need to implement some income tax not too far from now. The population wants government to provide everything, but not expect to pay for it. Ignorance is bliss. So that ends my thing. I just want to make sure that I keep up with some of these. And I've been posting a lot of the comments that you have been making on the screen. I know it's a little hard, but Anthony Russell said that the Bermuda, who is a British overseas jurisdiction, just like us, their entire financial income structure is on us. They depend on financial services and tourism. Says that Bermuda introduced a corporate income tax like 3 years ago. We could also consider that as well. Again, Anthony, thank you for your feedback. The thing is that the reality is a conversation needs to be started. Once we hear these realities and some of the things that government may actually have to look further afield just to try and fund these things, is that, they may need a more robust means testing, ensuring that, and this is going back to Minister Ralston Anglin's cry for a reality that paying for these long-term care is not sustainable, and the cost of healthcare in general as well. That's only one bucket that nationally the government is responsible for. But maybe they may have to have a more robust testing, a means testing, ensuring that this support goes to those who truly, truly cannot afford care. And there's another section suggestions too. Maybe that may need to look at respite care so that families can care for their loved ones without really being burned out. So it's not all of that, like little jabs then, certain periods. And then possibly more training programs, helping family to help them support their families so that they're not scared or just leaving them to the government or become the government's responsibility. And of course, it is always a win-win when we do and consider public-private partnerships where, maybe something's in the pipeline to build an assisted living home, rehab centers as well, and places like even for dementia care units as well. But there are NPOs out there that you could do this public-private partnership with. Bottom line is, what I want to say is that every person, especially our senior, deserves dignity, and dignity in care, dignity in their final years, dignity in how we even speak about them and how we support them, because we don't want anybody feeling ashamed because life hit them, right? But dignity in also requires structure nationally. It requires planning from a national perspective. And it also is, at the end of the day, shared responsibility, because families as well have a role. They have a big role to play. Government has their roles too, but it looks as though sometimes we're just like throwing it on the government. Private sector as well have a role to play. And as a community, we all must decide, really at the end of the day, what kind of Cayman we want to grow old in, because that's something that's coming for all of us. Missy Banks, it's good to have you here with us. I saw my friend here, Rosa Rose, too, had said something earlier on. It's so good to have you all here with me. But you know, we got 1 minute to the end of this episode of Sabrina Speaks, and I want to thank you all for weighing in on this this episode. I love your feedback. I love your contributions. You realize we were able to take 2 big conversations, but it doesn't end here. We can continue tomorrow as well if you so choose. I'm going to follow up with what's happening in Parliament. I've been out on the road doing a lot of stuff, so I have not been able to keep up with it in real time. So I'll go back and play back what was happening today. But as we wrap up this conversation this evening, I just want to, just really thank you all again for being here and come to the heart and the reality that here as home, Cayman is really at a point where our survival is really a big national issue. And it's right now at a crossroads, because we're seeing, and this is real talk, the rise in cost of care for our seniors, the strain on our social systems, the ongoing conversations even about we're having right now with the digital ID and how we modernize government services, right? And these are not separate topics because they all intertwine. They all connect some way, somehow. And when you have the Minister of Finance really warns that Syneco's home healthcare program could reach $20 million this year and nearly $29 million in 2028. He's just not talking about numbers, guys. That's not just numbers. He's talking about sustainability. He's talking about responsibility. He's talking about dignity. And whether we're talking about the rising cost of this whole senior care, the need for modernizing our digital systems to make us be a more attractive jurisdiction so that we keep those finance companies happy or whatever it is, the message remains the same at the end of the day. And we all have our part to play. Bottom line is, our government just cannot carry every burden. And families cannot carry every burden. And our seniors, they deserve more than a system stretched to a breaking point. So I ask you all, let's do a little better job at showing up. Let's do a little better job at planning ahead. And I hope that by means of this discussion and what was taken away from here today, that we will be in a better frame of mind to support our elders with more dignity and to look at our own personal responsibilities. And let's modernize our systems so that it can help people really, really, truly get access to what they need. Because at the end of the day, look further afield. I wouldn't want to retire anywhere else right now than right here. But at the end of the day, this is our Cayman. And this is our responsibility. And it is definitely our future to shape. That brings me to the end of Sabrina Speaks show here this evening on this beautiful Tuesday evening. Please take care of yourself. Be safe on our roads. Don't give up hope. Let's come together for one. As I say, love you lots. Take care. Good night. See you tomorrow.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.